Have you ever felt like you have a throat full of glass? Like every word you want to say, every emotion you need to express, gets caught, sharp and painful, before it can ever escape. That's what it felt like for me, for my family. On the surface, we were the picture-perfect family. My husband, a successful banker, and me, a dedicated nurse. We had two beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and a house in a quiet, leafy suburb. We had everything, it seemed, but inside those walls, a silent, creeping cold had taken hold. We were a family of strangers, passing each other like ships in the night. My husband's days were a whirlwind of numbers, market trends, and high-stakes meetings that stretched late into the evening. His phone was a permanent extension of his hand, a constant source of buzzing and urgent demands. When he finally came home, his body was present, but his mind was still in the trading room, miles away. He'd kiss the kids goodnight, his eyes already distant, his thoughts already on the next day's opening bell. He was providing for us, building a fortress of financial security, but the walls of that fortress were so high we couldn't see him on the other side. He was a good man, a great provider, but he was slowly disappearing from our lives. My life was a different kind of chaos. 12-hour shifts at the hospital were a blur of beeping machines, urgent codes, and the constant, draining emotional weight of caring for others. I poured my heart and soul into my patients, giving them the comfort and care their own families sometimes couldn't. But when I got home, my well of empathy was dry. I was exhausted, not simply tired, but drained to my very core. The energy I had was spent on strangers, for my own children. I had only the dregs, the leftovers. I would go through the motions, making dinner, checking homework, but it was mechanical. The warmth, the patience, the genuine connection a mother should have was something I struggled to find. We were two good people, my husband and I, two people who loved each other, who loved our children. But we were trapped in our own separate worlds, our schedules a relentless tide that pulled us further and further apart. Dinners were silent affairs, the clinking of cutlery the only sound breaking the heavy quiet. We forgot how to talk to each other about anything other than logistics. Who was picking up the kids? What bills needed to be paid? The laughter that once filled our home became a distant echo, a memory from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. We stopped being husband and wife. We were merely cohabitants, business partners in the enterprise of raising a family. And our children, they were living in the epicenter of this silence. They were good kids. They did well in school. They didn't cause trouble. They learned early on not to ask for too much, not to demand our time. They saw how tired we were, how stressed, so they became quiet. They played in their rooms, creating worlds that we were not a part of. They learned to rely on each other, a little self-contained unit of two. We thought they were fine. We told ourselves they were independent, resilient. We didn't see the invisible weight they were carrying, the weight of our emotional absence. They were growing up in a house, but not a home. They had parents, but they were, in many ways, raising themselves. The breaking point, when it came, wasn't a loud, dramatic explosion. It was a quiet, heartbreaking little crack. It was a Tuesday evening. My son, who was 8 at the time, had a parent-teacher conference. I had forgotten completely. It was only when the school called, asking if I was on my way, that the realization hit me like a physical blow. I rushed over, filled with a nauseating mix of shame and panic. His teacher, a kind woman with gentle eyes, showed me his latest art project. It was a drawing of our family, for figures standing far apart. And between my husband and me, my son had drawn a giant, jagged piece of gray glass. He told his teacher, "That's what's in mommy and daddy's throats. It's why they can't talk." That drawing shattered me. It was a child's simple, devastatingly accurate depiction of our reality, a throat full of glass. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't retreat into my exhaustion. I waited up for my husband. When he walked in, I didn't say a word. I simply handed him the drawing. I watched his face as he looked at it, the usual tired lines around his eyes deepening into something else, pain, recognition. He sank onto the sofa, the drawing trembling in his hand. And in that shared, heavy silence, we both finally understood what we had allowed to happen. We saw our family not as we wanted it to be, but as it was, through the clear, innocent eyes of our son. That was the beginning, not a magical, overnight fix, but the start of a long, difficult journey back to each other. It began with small things. My husband started leaving work at 6, no matter what. He turned his phone off when he walked through the door. I cut back my hours at the hospital, taking a position with a more predictable schedule. We started eating dinner together, and at first, the silence was deafening. It was awkward, painful. We had forgotten how to simply be together. What do you even say to the person you've been living with but haven't truly spoken to in years? The glass was still there, but we were trying to talk around it, to carefully find a way through. It was our children who taught us how to talk again. They started a new family rule. One good thing, every night at dinner, each of us had to share one good thing about our day. At first, it was forced. I had a good sandwich for lunch. I saw a cute dog. But slowly, it evolved. My daughter would talk about a friend at school. My son would describe a bug he found in the garden. My husband would share a small victory at work. I would talk about a patient who was going home. These small, seemingly insignificant stories were like threads slowly weaving us back together. They were little windows into each other's worlds we had been locked out of for so long. We started scheduling family time, not as a chore, but as something sacred. Saturday mornings became our time. No phones, no work, no distractions. Sometimes we'd go for a hike. Sometimes we'd play a board game, the sounds of our competitive bickering and laughter filling the house. Sometimes we would simply sit in the living room and read our own books, but together in the same space. The silence was different now. It wasn't an empty, cold silence. It was a comfortable, peaceful quiet, the kind you can only share with people you feel completely safe with. We were learning to breathe the same air again. That piece of glass in my throat, it's not completely gone. There are days when the old habits creep back, when the stress of work threatens to pull us back into our separate corners. But now we know how to fight it. We know how to recognize the silence before it becomes deafening. We learn that a family isn't a self-sustaining machine. It's a living, breathing thing. It needs to be fed with time, with attention, with laughter, and with the messy, beautiful, and sometimes difficult work of connection. Our children, with their innocent wisdom, gave us the gift of a second chance. They didn't fix us, not really. They held up a mirror and showed us that we were broken, and then they gave us the tools, one small story at a time, to start putting the pieces back together. They taught us that the most important thing you can ever build isn't a career or a bank account, but a home where everyone feels seen and everyone feels heard. Thank you so much for listening to our story. If it resonated with you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to know we're not alone in these journeys. See you next time.